Welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast, Deac2Deac. In this episode, I have the opportunity to sit down with head women's basketball coach and Wake Forest Hall of Famer, Jen Hoover. In this episode, Jen and I spent some time talking about her secrets to developing players, her overall coaching philosophy, and her favorite Deacon moment, plus much, much more. Take a listen and go Deacs. Let's start from the beginning, Coach. So where are you originally from?
Roanoke, Virginia. Born and raised there in Roanoke. Went to William Byrd High School. One of three. I have an older brother, older sister, so I was the baby of our family, and really close-knit family. So knew when I was going to school, you could pretty much draw a circle. 2 hours was probably going to be the max. Kind of came down to Virginia and Wake Forest, and Debbie Ryan had some phenomenal teams at Virginia with Dawn Staley and company while I was here at Wake Forest, and still know that this was the right place for me from day one and still is. So
that Virginia area has been really great to Wake Forest, particularly with basketball. I talked to LaChina Robinson, who's from the Virginia area, and Dr. Janice Collins. She was there in the mid-'80s. She's from the Virginia area. So Virginia has been really, really good to Wake Forest in terms of just making sure, great people coming to the university. So having being the baby and having two older siblings, is that how you got into sports? Did they play? Was it their influence?
we were a family that did everything together. Like, we grew up in the church. My faith's very important to me. My parents, were a great Christian family and raised us in the church and believing and doing everything together. And I had my brother and my sister both played a little bit of everything. Mom was not an athlete in any way, shape, or form. She her form of and my dad was a individual sport guy. He was a hunter, and he shot bow and arrow, and he actually raced like dirt Jeeps, like motocross Jeeps and stuff like that. Grew up kind of camping a lot as a family, and whenever one person had an event, everybody went. And and that's why I say I knew when I was going to go to school, it was going to be somewhere where I felt like all the family could still be there and get there as easy as they could.
So was basketball your first and only sport, or were there other sports that you played?
I first probably played, well, my brother was on the football team, and because I would go watch his practices, the coach handed me a helmet and some shoulder pads, and he thought I was going to. I probably played t-ball even before I may have played basketball. And then 8, I tried to, my area, you had to be 9 to play girls rec basketball, but you could to play boys. So I played with the and team was with Recreation League and probably Benton. It might have been in Roanoke, and it was with an all boys team. And then when I turned 9, I got to go to the girls team. So kind of came full circle, because then after I played the season, came back, I played in a church league that was co-ed. Well, it wasn't co-ed until my church petitioned to let me play with them. And the other guys were like, sure, this girl, we don't care. And then after I started playing, they had some few words to exchange, but they were great. So and I played soccer growing up. I played volleyball, played church softball. We didn't have softball in high school. Most of it was recreational, just getting out. And we were all, my sister and my brother.
So what was it about basketball that sort of separated?
It's a fast-paced. Volleyball has a few too many stops in action for me. I really enjoyed it. I played high school volleyball, and then I got to play a little beach volleyball after I got into coaching, just in some, on some staffs when I was at BCU, which was a lot of fun. Soccer wasn't enough scoring for me. I don't like playing any game that can end in a tie. I just don't. No, let's keep playing. And so, I think the basketball, the nonstop action, the competitiveness, the success I was able to have, I was always tall for my age. So it just was a natural fit for me, and something that, really has become just a lifestyle for me, not something I do. It's really part of who I am. It doesn't define me, but it's definitely being a part of a team and doing something I've always been passionate about.
So when did you know that you had something talent wise, that it was could be something special, and you're getting recruited? When did that start for you?
I don't really remember kind of the moment that I remember starting to get letters and that kind of stuff and thought, but I was the my family to graduate from college. My brother older laid like see how many go to school. Um, and then my sister went to the Air Force as well. So, I think when I started to get letters, I started to realize, wow, this could pay for my education and it's doing something I love to do. So it was pretty cool. It was obviously very flattering, but I was very humble and just thinking like, really, are they really gonna, you know, go to school and do and at first I actually looked at both volleyball and basketball a little bit. I had several schools that recruited me for both, and then I was down to kind of four schools when I was getting recruited, and two of them were recruiting me for both, and then there was Wake in Virginia, and I decided that the other two weren't if they weren't going to be in the ACC, I didn't want to go unless I could play both. So I kind
Oh,
of ended up
wow.
in basketball ever since. So
So what was it about Wake that, made you decide that's where I want to be over Virginia, who had a great program, continues to have a good program? What was it about Wake Forest that made you decide that you were going to, step outside and go outside of that Virginia border and and be a part of Wake Forest?
I think the biggest thing for me it was that small family atmosphere that I grew up in. I felt immediately when I got to the course, I felt overwhelmed or a small fish in a huge pond. I felt like it was just a natural community feel. I was connected to so many different people, and the people were what made it so easy and at home for me. It just felt like a family. And that was what, I was a little scared at some of the bigger, larger universities. I got recruited by pretty much everyone across the country, and I couldn't imagine being in a lecture hall with 500 people. I wanted to be able to walk into the classroom and say hello to my professor, and I had those relationships with my high school teachers. So I was, really cognizant of that when I was looking at schools. And there was definitely a comfortability in that. And I knew distance from home was also going to play into that.
Now, you were three-time All-ACC, ACC Academic Honor Roll, so that you had this great balance. You established it. How? I really want to know that secret, because I struggled with that playing football and balancing, but you did a great job. What was your secret to accomplishing that balance?
I think it goes back to my mom and dad and just the way I was raised. I wasn't much of a socialite or partier, or so when I came, I didn't have to sacrifice that part. For me, the social part was the team. So when I was with my team practice or we were going to eat, that was like I wasn't, you know, so it wasn't like I was trying to balance two things. I was really just balancing basketball and academics because basketball was my family. And so, it's hard, but I think it's all about time management and how prepared you are. Just like with our kids, when we go to a game, every game is hard, but if you're prepared for it, there's a way different confidence about you. And I'll be honest, when I first came, I was a little intimidated by the academics. I was a pretty good student, but I wasn't a great student in high school. And then again, for people that are investing in you and touching you daily, you know, I had so much support that there was a lot of people that had how successful that I made it look, because it really, there's so many people behind that really helped with that, from teammates to our academic counselors, our coaches. It takes a village.
So, with you accomplishing this balance and you're doing great things on the court, off the court, I want to ask you something. As a player, I know there's always that one school that you just really want to play hard against. I mean, you just really want to beat them. Okay, I'm going to say the correct thing. You approach every team the same way, but and I know there's one school you really got up for. What school was it?
Growing up about Virginia, that was the game every year that, biggest game on the schedule for me. As a coach now, it's probably Carolina. Old, don't like that. down the road in the shades. For me growing up, I years later, and I'm on just a respect level amongst the ACC players and coaches and stuff that, this isn't easy what we do. And what they did then was definitely, they were one of the trailblazers for where women's basketball was headed. And so for me, those games were always the ones that like, I got to get a double-double. I got to do my part. And, and even as a coach, when I was at High Point, we played there and we didn't beat them, but then I was here. We were the first team to win at their place since I was a player, one of my first years here at Wake Forest. So there's still a little bit of that Virginia, always circled around too. We're disappointed we didn't get here.
Wow. So Virginia was your team. So I want to talk about something else. Who was that rival player that you really wanted to do well against, that you really put the extra film work in, you knew that they were coming? Who was that player?
Me in my position at the time, it would have been Maryland, who was in our league at the time. Christy Winters and Vicky Bullitt were their two kind of pretty big time post players. So those were two that I always, and to this day, Christy and I talk to each other and visit when I'm in their area recruiting, or we were at the Mystics training camp 2 years ago, watching the first couple of days of training camp, but had an awful lot of respect for them and knew that if I could hold my own against them, I was going to earn that for me. And then the other two would have been the two at NC State, Sharon Manning and Sharice Mapp. I think were the two that were there at the same time. Same thing, played the 4 and the 5, the big physical post players that had been able to dominate in our league. And so those are the kind of the 4 posts that I really measured myself up against on a daily basis.
So you put up some great numbers as a player at Wake, and you were the all-time leading scorer and all-time leading rebounder until you coached a player to break your record. So I want to ask you a couple of questions in that. One, what did it feel like to accomplish those things, becoming the leading scorer, leading rebound in Wake's history, and then to coach a player that broke your records? What were those two experiences like?
Well, it was amazing to kind of have the career I had. And I tell people all the time, I had some great guards that got me the ball, and I had some great guards that missed a lot of shots. So I got a lot of rebounds. But, I couldn't have done that without my coaches and my teammates. And they put me in a position to really be successful. And it was an honor. It was held way too long. I think it was almost a 20-year record when Dearica, when I had the privilege to coach the kid that was going to break it. And I knew as soon as I got on campus watching Dearica first day of workouts that she was special. I didn't recruit that kid to break my records. Mike Peterson had recruited her and signed her before I got here. But, we had an ongoing joke as she was getting close that I was going to start benching her. But, I tell kids all the time when I recruit them, I want somebody to break her record over and over and over. That's who we're trying to recruit, are those players that can come in here and really, continue to build on what the ones that have come before have left. And we all are, excited about where the program is headed, but that's what it's about. And, it was such an honor to be there when Dearica broke the record and to be coaching. I would have never dreamed that. I mean, my dream job was to come back to Wake Forest and be the head coach, but to come back and know that I still had the records and actually coach the kid in it was probably my first 2 years here, first 3 years here, that then broke both of those records. She's all over my wall outside of my office. And I couldn't be more proud of her and what she's done and what she's continuing to do right now in the WNBA. And not only as a coach, but she's kind of become the face of the mothers of the WNBA, with Amaya, her little girl, being like a celebrity last year in the Wubble. So just so proud of her.
Did you always know you wanted to be a coach? Was that something that was just always a part of you?
I think in high school, when I first got here, I thought I was going to major in education and teach and coach high school, because that's what I had seen and been around. And then when I graduated, I knew that going overseas to play was going to be a little tough for the little girl that went 2 hours from home, and dad didn't miss one single game of my college career, was at every game. My mom only missed a handful. That all of a sudden I was going to go across the water and be able to make it over there. So I did it because I wanted to say I gave it a try. And, I actually lucked out and lived with a family while I was there that took me in and had some great relationships I built with them. And And then when I came back, I knew that basketball and I wanted to coach. I wanted to college coach. I didn't want to be a high school coach. I didn't want to be in the classroom per se. I really wanted that one-on-one relationship building and the recruiting and all the kind of stuff that goes into the college side of it. So, and that was after I'd been in college and seen my college coaches. I had a great relationship with my college coach, Joe Sanchez, and we had several assistants, Helen Williams, and several that just really made an impact on me. And I saw what they did, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I'll be honest, I'm blessed because I don't feel like I've worked a day in my life. I just don't. It's something that's just fun to do. It's fun to be a part of a team. It's fun to watch our kids develop. And so I'm very grateful for every opportunity I've been given, and the people around me that I get to do it with.
Now, Coach, you're in a rare situation where you were a great player and you are now taking advantage of the opportunity to come back to your alma mater and coach. What was it like when you got that call that you had gotten the job? What was that moment like?
Yeah, that was truly a dream come true. So my coaching career, I had, and when it happened was, so I had been out in California for 3 years, lost my father to lung cancer. The first year I went out there, he got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. So here's daddy's little girl in California. They're in North Carolina. I have their only grandchild. And that was tough. They ended up coming out and staying with us every year during our entire season. But the last year I was there, he lost that battle. And I was actually back over here in Virginia for a memorial service, and got a call from High Point to go interview, and went and interviewed and actually got the High Point head coaching job. Well, it had taken me, I had been an assistant for 20 plus years. And I had interviewed for several head coaching jobs, but just hadn't gotten it, hadn't been the right one. And, went down there, fell in love with that little campus. Craig Kylitz was the AD. He had some Wake Forest ties. There's a lot of similarities. And, I was very blessed to be offered that job at a time in my life that was a really tough time. And so the funny part about that is, called my husband, told him that we got offered the job. And he's like, okay, well, when are you and Maggie coming back out? I said, we're not. You need to pack the house up and drive it, come across country. And he was like, okay. So he drove cross country in about 3 days with our Mastiff. We had a 125-pound Mastiff named Buckus that sat in the front seat with him in the truck. And he had some day people come in movers and just move everything into the truck, and drove across country. And we relocated to High Point. And then 13 months later, the Wake job came open. Craig Kylitz, again, awesome AD, being the wonderful, understanding my dreams and stuff, immediately calls me and says, okay, I saw it was, do you want me to call over to Ron and see if your name's on the list? And from there, it kind of just was like a dream come true. It took me 20 plus years to be a head coach, but within 13 months, I had my dream job. So just extremely grateful for Ron and Barbara Walker both. That's who I interviewed with, both of those, and got the opportunity to come home. But, I want to win championships while I'm here. And these facilities we have here, why not us? Like there's no reason with what we have to offer young ladies, especially out there looking to both make a name for themselves in the best conference in the country, but also to earn a degree that's really going to carry them into life, no matter what their choices are after the ball does stop bouncing, to come and win some championships.
So, Coach, you talked about the facilities at Wake, and you're now standing in the hallway of the Sutton Sports Performance Center, the Shaw Basketball Complex. I want to talk about that a little bit. How has that impacted the program, having those updated facilities?
Oh, they're unbelievable. We're still working on some of the, like, this area is really, it's one of my favorite places on campus now. But like some of the graphics and some of the wow factor, they're already updating that, and it hasn't even been 2 years. But these facilities are the top of the line. I would put our weight room against anybody's in the country, especially for men's and women's basketball. Our practice gyms side by side, the girls will be in the guys' gym, the guys will be like, just the camaraderie that's also created for the women's and men's basketball teams. Like, it's not this, well, the guys are in there, we can't go in. Like, we'll share the shooting machines and just our office space. And it's just that I can't, like, now there's not much a student athlete that wants to come and be a great player. There's no excuse. Like, that gym is always open. and for them to be able to get in and get those shots up. And so it's really made a big difference. It was something we were, far behind on, and it's just opened the eyes. And for us to attract a kid like a Jewel Spear this year, who came in as a freshman and made, all rookie team, and then was just selected to the under-19 USAs, like, part of that was seeing how exciting of a time it is to be at Wake Forest and how much the athletics mean, but you're going to get this amazing degree, and how you can do them both. You don't have to sacrifice one for the other. And so I think that part has been a game changer for us, just an absolute game changer.
Now, Coach, you have a reputation for developing players, especially your forwards, your centers. I want to talk about what that process is like. What do you go through to really develop a player from that freshman year to that junior, senior year, and watching them grow? What are some of your secrets that you can share? I don't want to share too much, okay? Don't want to share. This is still the ACC. But what are some things you don't mind sharing with Deacon Nation that's your secret to really developing quality student athletes?
Well, first of all, I have to give a lot of credit to my staff too, because I have a staff that really buys in on the investment we make in our players. I tell them every day or every week, the most important kids out there are the ones that are on our campus. And I really believe in my staff recruiting these players and then developing them. So they don't just recruit them and then somebody else, like, you just go play, and then the assistants move on and start recruiting the next group. They're also very involved in every step of the way with their development. And then we really pride ourselves in individualizing their development. So every one of our players isn't going to do the same workout. We like complementary pieces. So, like, we don't recruit everybody. It's like Dearica Hamby. Would we like to have a Dearica Hamby? Absolutely. But Elisa Penna, who played the 4, was way different than Dearica. She was one of our best shooters ever. Ivana Ratza, another 4 for us that was just way different. And I think what it does is the way we play, we give a lot of we allow our post players to make a few decisions. And a lot of schools, just bury a post player on the low block and you just do the dirty work. And partly because I played the post, but now I did the dirty work. I didn't come outside the paint at all. But we spend a lot of time individually, one-on-one with a coach and a player. And when we do that, we're developing an hour workout that is strictly for just that one player. And so when we do workouts as a group, and there's times of the year where we have to do groups because of we're recruiting or something else. If there's 4 of us in a group, just the 3 I spoke about, if it's Elisa, Ivana, and Dearica, well, if I do an hour workout with those 3, it's going to be very hard because they are all way different players. So it's not designed just for Dearica or just for her. It's so instead of doing that, we devote a lot of time, especially in our postseason and sometimes throughout the summer months, like right now, starting next week, we'll do some more of this. We get a lot of one-on-one, and I think their development there, we have to find the right kids that are wanting to put in that work, and then really breaking down their one-on-one skills and giving them that attention has really paid off for us. And we feel like when we got here, we might not be signing and recruiting pros right when we sign them, but we feel like we're recruiting and signing kids that can develop into pros. And we've seen that happen now. We've seen kids go from a freshman year to just senior year and doubling their points per game, their rebounds per game. And so, I have to give the kids a lot of credit. Dearica was one of that I would give tons. She worked a lot, but my staff spent a lot of time working with her. And, a lot of people look at us as coaches and wonder what we do in the off season and in the postseason. And so once our season ends, before school ends, we're pretty much in the gym almost 8 hours a day, because when you talk about having 10 kids, everybody's going an hour by themselves. It takes up pretty much your day. Now, I'll kind of float baskets, but my guard coach will be with one of the point guards. My coach Dane has spent a lot of time with Ivana Ratza, and so it's just that the amount of time we spend. And as coaches, I think my coaching staff would tell you, they love that part. Like, that's our favorite part, because there's so much of what we do that doesn't involve being on the court with our kids. That's the part you live for. So I think that's probably our biggest secret, is we really do devote, and our players and my coaching staff spend a lot of time watching film in one-on-one situations, so they can really kind of get to find out what this kid is thinking and where they might be messing things up or not understanding. And really, it's just that daily investment in them on the court and in their relationships, of that they're more than just basketball players.
Coach, You talk about fighting through adversity. This had to be this past season had to be one of the toughest seasons you've had to deal with the pandemic and so much uncertainty in terms of games. And you found a way to still continue the program in this path of growth and development towards consistent success. And you even reached a milestone this season, becoming the winningest head coach. Talk a little bit about how did you continue to see the program grow and develop and continue to have success during this pandemic, and what did you learn from that? What lessons did you learn as a coach that you're going to take with you?
Well, I would say we approached our season from back July 6th. We brought them all together, and those that were comfortable with coming back came back, and all but one. And the other young lady was in an international country that was going to be a little trickier, and they just weren't real sure with where we were with COVID and where they were. But we approached it with an attitude of gratitude. We were just really grateful for every chance we got to be together, be outside of their dorm rooms, not on a Zoom call. You know, we did a ton of Zooms throughout the summer just to stay connected to each other. And so, you know, I have to give a lot of credit to these kids. I often said this year, if it would have been me, I'm not sure I could have done what they did, because I'm a people person. And so to sit in my room by myself would have been a real struggle for me. I probably would have been in a teammate's room. And we even try to tell them at times not to be around their teammates. Like, you really need to go to your room and stay locked in. And but they did. They were so excited to come to practice because it was a chance to get out. It was a chance to be around other people. And it was in our huddles, you know, it was the whole court. We weren't in these little tight, we usually huddle around the half court circle before practices, and after we were spread out across the whole court. So there were a lot of differences. But I do think it taught us all one thing, that to never take it for granted. You know, don't be grateful for every day you get, because I don't think any of us had predicted or had even guessed that we would ever go through what we went through last year. And again, our kids did a phenomenal job. We went through the whole season with not one single case, and not even really a quarantine of any sort. So, you know, what I learned about us as a team is, you know, perseverance and resilient. These kids, they adapt. We talked about pivoting. You know, we tried to use it in basketball terms. We had to make a lot of pivots this year, and thank goodness we had our pivot foot, and we held that pivot foot down, and we made some pivots, and we made some passes, and, you know, we were able to kind of all of it to come together a little bit. And maybe part of it was the fact that we were so grateful for everything we got. We just played with a different sense of, you know, passion about it because of the scenario. But, you know our kids are so excited to be back in person for classes come the fall. You don't come to Wake Forest to take classes online. It's not what I signed up for. It's not what any of our kids are recruited to do. It's just not, that's not the educational piece that you wanted to get. And so our kids, again, kudos to them for kind of figuring out how to do that, to our professors and our administration for even figuring out how to navigate this whole thing and really have an academic year. It was a challenge, but I do think we learned a lot. We learned some new ways to do things. We talk about it a lot. We have a game plan in every game we go into. Every season we have a game plan, and you got to have options A, B, and C. You got to have some backups. You got to make game changes. You got to make halftime adjustments. And we had to make a lot of adjustments. And, you know, our kids and our staff and, you know, our team and our family were able to make those adjustments on the fly with relatively ease. And I think that was one of the things that really helped us be successful and be consistent throughout the year.
Coach, how would you describe your philosophy, your approach to the game? How would you describe that for Deacon Nation?
Well, I have a very positive approach as far as a coach. Like I really want to push our kids to be their best version of themselves. And I want to push them and inspire them. I don't want to punish them and berate them, if you will. In the game, it should be fun. And we talk about that all the time. Like, we got to have fun. If we're not having fun, why are we doing it? And it's fun to win. It's fun to compete. And just like I was saying soccer earlier, I mean, I loved playing soccer, but it just drove me nuts when a game ended in a tie. Like, so I think my philosophy in that is like, you know, we're a family, we're going to have fun, but we're also going to get after it. And as much as we can, we want to celebrate the little wins. And yeah, we're going to hold you accountable, but I would much rather find our kids doing things the right way and doing things I can celebrate than me having to constantly stay on them. And I tell kids in recruiting, like, if you're somebody that isn't really motivated, that somebody's got to light a fire under you all the time, this ain't the place. You know, you gotta want to be put the work in to be successful at Wake Forest, because across the board, it's going to take commitment. It's going to take dedication. It's going to take time management, because we're going to expect you to be in the gym getting extra work in while you're also getting that paper done and the test you have tomorrow and tutoring. You got to be able to do it all, and it can't be one over the other. It's got to be that combined commitment to both.
So you started touching on it a bit. If you don't mind giving a few more examples, what do you look for when you're out on the road recruiting? What do you look for in a player as a student and as a basketball player? What are some things you look for to know that, hey, Wake Forest is a good fit for you?
Right. Well, their motor, how hard they play. I think that's something as a coaching staff, like, if we're going to have to spend time coaching energy or effort, then we're not going to get to spend the time developing pros and developing sixth one of the year award winners in the NBA. And so that's one of the things, how much better do they make their teammates? Not just are they a great basketball player, but how are they affecting the game? How do they affect their team? Their interactions with their coaches and their teammates. If we're looking for a leader and a point guard, how much are they leading their team? The basketball parts, everybody can go in the gym, see who can score, who can rebound, or but who's that kid that's, diving on the floor for the loose ball, that's going to give that extra effort, or is in the huddle firing their team up. So there's so much that goes into it. For us, the character of the person is going to matter. Like, we're going to spend time getting to know you. It's not just about the basketball player. It's about your family, what you want to do after basketball. And so there's a lot of things, and we try to do a ton of research to really get to know our kids. And, we want to, get to know their families. And, but it's tough, you sit in gyms and you watch, and everybody sees the same kids, and everybody goes after the same ones. But those are a few of the key things I think it really matter for us is, how hard do you play? What's their basketball IQ, or what kind of system are they winners,
Well, you're in a unique position. You are a player and the coach at Wake. So I want to know your favorite Deacon moments. Now, I usually give all my guests get one, but because you're in this special position, I want to hear, what is your favorite Deacon moment as a player, and then your favorite Deacon moment as a coach?
Gotcha. As a player, it would have to be hitting the game-winning shot in our first the first round of the NCAA when I was a freshman up at Villanova. We had to go up there and play in the first round, and all we were running was a baseline out of bounds, and I couldn't even tell you, it's probably just a basic screen to screener, but I was wide open. And I think Alice Neal threw me the ball, and I made a right-handed layup. It was the easiest shot in the game to win the game, to send us to the second round, to go on to Tennessee, who we ended up losing to. That was the eventual champion that year. But that has to be the biggest moment there. And then as a coach, it would probably be selection show this year, just because it was such a monumental time for us as a team to be able to, really realize the dreams that we had recruited many of these players and many of the ones that had come before, to kind of be the team that made the breakthrough, that got us back to the NCAA tournament. To be able to enjoy that moment with my staff and our players, and many of the Deacon Club women's basketball faithfuls were in the Coliseum. They were on the other side because of COVID. I wish we could have had a huge selection show party and that kind of stuff. But again, it was an unusual year. But that would probably have to be the biggest so far as a coach. And then winning 4 of our last 5 against Carolina is always special.
Oh, that's always special. Always. So now you're very humble person. And so you're not, I was expecting you to say, becoming the all-time winningest coach, but I should have known better. You're always going to give credit to your staff and to the players. But for Deacon Nation, let us know, that had to be a special moment for you.
I really didn't even realize I was kind of close to it. I mean, it's one of those things I don't really pay attention to. And I remember when I got my 100th win, I just, it's exciting to share it, and the kids make such a big deal about it. And, obviously it's an honor that I've been here long enough to kind of accomplish that. But to me, that's a team award as well. I've had many staff members who've gone on to be head coaches. I think I have 5 now assistants that are now running their own programs, and they all were a part of that. I've had managers that were a part of that. My first group I inherited from Mike Peterson. Those weren't my players per se. They were all our players, but it's really special to be that. I hope I can add on another 100 to that before I ever retire from here. And, and again, it's one of those things when you're able to be back at your alma mater, like it's great being home, but we still want to win championships here and do things that haven't been done. And this year we checked the box, but that's all it is right now. And now we're hungry and the kids are hungry. They want more. They got to see what it was like to get off of your hotel in the NCAA tournament and there's signs made up with NCAA logos and the WF is on it. And, it's just something they hadn't experienced. And we got Nike shoes delivered to the rooms. And, for me, it's about watching their faces and seeing what they do. And that's how I'm not going to measure myself by W's and L's. It's the kids I have that come back and have had a baby or we send onesies as kids. So we know that there's babies coming out, people, former alum are having children. Liz Strunk is expecting one of her first. And we've had some in the last couple of years that I didn't even coach, but anytime that we can get our alma mater to stay together, our alumni to really, that means a lot to us. It means a lot to our current kids. And as an alum, it means so much to me to connect those pieces together.
So when you look across the landscape of women's basketball on the college level, what do you see coming on the horizon that, Deacon Nation should be aware of that could have a positive impact on Wake Forest program and basketball as a whole?
Ooh, there's so much coming across the horizon. I'm not sure if I'm actually seeing it yet, just with how much things have changed with COVID being part of it and just the transfer. It's just such a different atmosphere and climate than it was when I was in school. Them opening up the transfer and play right away. I'm not sure where we're headed in the NIL, the name, image, and likeness stuff that's getting ready to come down the pipe. There's just so many unknowns out there. And, Commissioner Phillips, our new commissioner with the ACC, I loved it when he came to visit us on campus. He has a philosophy of seeing what's around the corner, kind of like what you're saying, what's on the horizon. And, I think as coaches, we always want to plan. And hopefully this COVID year will help us, be able to adapt to what's going to come around the corner. And we don't know it because, I think for us, we're going to keep doing things the right way for the right reasons. One of the things that always has been special to me about Wake Forest is I believe it's synonymous with integrity. The kind of people that are here and what makes it so special are those things. We're not going to sacrifice one thing for another. And I think because of that, we're still going to have players on our team that our Deacon Nation are going to recognize and know, because they saw them as freshmen and they're going to see them as seniors. Are we going to have some that are going to matriculate? Yes. Unfortunately, that's the climate of what this transfer portal and in this time and age, we are this, stamp it right now. It's just an uncertain times that, I just hope that I think in a couple of years, some of that will flatten out and it'll settle back down. But I think for the next couple of years, you're in for a little bit of a wild ride, almost a roller coaster ride through college athletics.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you for taking the time. I want to ask you one other question. You hear about a coaching tree.
Right.
Talk about some of the coaches that influence you and then your coaching tree. You mentioned you have several that are assistants leading their own programs, various levels. So who are your coaching influences? And when you look at your coaching tree, the number of great coaches that have come from you, what are you, just kind of share your thoughts on that?
Well, my coaching tree I would start it back to my coach here, Joe Sanchez, just because I really respected his strategic approach to the game. And I learned so much from him on, the analysis, analytics, and just the X's and O's and how to, put somebody at a disadvantage and that kind of stuff. And then I was very fortunate to work with phenomenal people all throughout my coaching career. For my first coach, I worked with David Glass, who was an assistant that recruited me really hard when I was coming out of school. Now he was at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth at the time. And, I was not going to downtown Richmond, Virginia to school. No knocks on VCU. They have a phenomenal facility and great school. But when he offered me a grad assistant job after I came back from playing overseas, I jumped at the opportunity because I give him a lot of credit for my 1,700 points, because when I was young growing up and going to 5 stars, he taught me how to shoot a jump hook. And I used the right and left hand. Those that remember me as a player, I could shoot right, left hand jump hooks like no other. And that's how I scored all my points. Oh, you're going to take that away. I'll just pivot and score with this one. And so he taught me not only a lot as a player, but I worked with him for the first 4 years as an assistant coach and did a little bit of everything. And he had me doing everything. And when he left UMKC to go to VCU, the AD, Lee Hunt, at the time, offered me to be a head coach. I'd been an assistant coach for 2 years, a grad assistant for a year and a full-time assistant. And I was like so humbled when I walked, when I left, when he said this in his office, and I said, I'm just not ready for that. Like I was so blessed, like grateful that he trusted me, but I just didn't feel like I myself was ready. So, learned a lot from being with him, to been going on to Debbie Ryan, Joanne Boyle, two people I spent a lot of time with that are legends in the game, have done so much, both in conference and then the Pac-12 is too. So, and again, all of those coaches let me do a little bit of everything. They didn't put me in a box and say, well, you're just a recruiter, or you just coach offense, or I got to do travel and recruiting and coach the post players and do scouting reports. And so as a head coach now, when I made that jump over to head coach, I felt like I had already had my hands in a little bit of everything. So, I think they really helped prepare me for this step. And as a head coach, I believe that's part of my responsibility to my staff, is the same thing, is to prepare them, to let them have some budget control, some their hands in scheduling and everything else. And so, I feel very blessed, because there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. And I felt like the way I came through the career ladder, if you will, taught me a lot, and also showed me that I can empower my staff to kind of have those same steps, if you will. And so been very fortunate, have some really great assistants that have gone on and been head coaches. After my first year, my one assistant, Jada Williams, got the head coaching job at Coastal Carolina. She's still the head coach at Coastal Carolina right now. Gail Coates, who was with me for many years and was a hard loss when we lost her, as the head coach over at Davidson. We had to play them this year. It's never fun to play your former assistants. So, it's tough, because we're still really close. Jada and Gail both, and we all still talk. When I was at High Point, my assistant over there, I had already hired her to come over here with me. And then Craig ended up hiring her back as the head coach, Deanna Hendricks. She since has left and went to Miami of Ohio. She's from Indiana originally. And so she did a great job at High Point, and then got an opportunity to move on to Miami of Ohio. And then my most recent two happened this year. Melissa D'Amico, who's now Melissa Graves, got married a week after she got the job, got named the head coach at Boston University this year. And just got a great opportunity there to really go lead her program. And then Clarice Garcia, who was on my staff, one of my first staffs, I think she replaced Jada, so she was on my second staff, was just named the head coach at Charleston Southern. So, I've had a lot of great people come work for me, and again, part of my responsibilities as a head coach is to help prepare them and give them those opportunities. And it's tough. It's tough to hire. It's tough to go through the process, but at the same time, I want to build them up and empower them and help them realize their dreams, much like many people did me throughout my career.
So for anyone that comes into the program, they're going to be prepared to not just be great players, not just great students, but could also go into the field of coaching and do a great job. And I mean, you just bring so much to the university and to the program. I appreciate you taking the time out, being a part of it. I know you got some recruiting to do, some training to do, and I don't want to hold you up. I definitely want to hold you up. But Coach, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out and talking to Deacon Nation. And again, keep up the great work that you're doing. And we're looking forward to coming and cheering on the Deacs again with the upcoming basketball season. Anything we should be looking for recruiting wise? Any announcements you want to share?
Well, we announced two newcomers yesterday that kind of came out. We're excited about the addition of both of them. One being a transfer from Utah, that's a Canadian kid that knew Christina Moore, who's already a Canadian kid that's on our team. And then another high school kid from Alyssa Andrews from Northern Virginia, kind of up there where LaChina was from. So we're excited to add them. Both quality individuals, excited to be a part of Deacon Nation. And then there'll be an announcement coming out later in the week, since this isn't going till next week, where I have promoted Erin Dickerson, my assistant last year, to associate head coach. She's just been a phenomenal addition to our staff. just completed her master's, went to a graduation in Georgetown for her master's yesterday. So was doing that this year, is getting married in August. And just another, I can't wait for Deacon Nation to really get to know her, because this year, our usual people didn't get to come and interact with us at the end of games, but we can't wait to get people back in the Coliseum and supporting these young ladies. That we missed our alma mater singing and our interaction on the court afterwards, but we'll be back this year, and we hope to see everybody there.
Well, Coach, thanks for taking the time out to talk to us. And look, again, we got to have you back right before the season, because we want to talk some more about the upcoming season, kind of get an update and everything. So look, you have a great one, and thanks for tuning in.
Oh, thank you so much. Go Deacs.